It is no secret that the Biden administration has failed to secure the southern border. The record number of people who have crossed the border during the last few years is impacting states all across the country, including Utah. Every state is now a border state. We welcome all who come here legally wishing to call Utah and the U.S. home. It's part of our culture to welcome people who come here to search for a better life, to work hard, obey the law, and to be part of our community. However, the chaos at the southern border has put serious strains on our communities, public safety resources, education system, and more. And while we are confident that the incoming Trump administration is going to take the southern border much more seriously, we also know that we need to act as state leaders to address the harm caused by the Biden-Harris administration's failure to act. When the federal government fails to fulfill its responsibilities, states have no choice but to step up. We've had extensive conversations with local government leaders, education officials, law enforcement, and nonprofits to understand the impacts to Utah communities. To help support our schools, as legislatures, we're working on a package of bills to support our local communities and address the public safety impacts of the southern border crisis on Utah. I want to underscore that this approach focused on public safety has widespread support. For example, a recent poll by the Deseret News found that 86% of Utahns support deporting illegal immigrants who commit crimes in the United States. You should have received a one-pager highlighting the bills we are proposing, while the details of several pieces of legislation are still being worked through. This provides you with a high-level glimpse into the package we're proposing. Additionally, I've invited a few of my colleagues to speak about their bills, and Commissioner Jess Anderson to share a few thoughts about the overall public safety trends. Let me first turn it over to Representative Peruchi to talk about the impacts on her district.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I represent the Harriman-Riverton area. I grew up in Harriman and love my district, love my community. And it sits in the southwest corner of Salt Lake County. And this issue has especially impacted the southwest corner of the valley over the past 2 years, as we've experienced a massive uptick in migrants relocating to our area. The uptick has been so significant that actually the Wall Street Journal reached out to me over the summer asking what was going on in Harriman. The reporter noted, as our nation had seen record waves of illegal border crossings, Harriman was listed as one of the top destination locations at the border in the data collected by Syracuse University on that tracks border crossings in our country. And it was one of the most listed destinations. In less than 10 years, Harriman has seen 9 times the number of foreign-born residents, and in just 3 years, the number of new immigration cases has climbed to nearly 13,000 from 752 in 2020. This has put a massive strain on our community, and it has been unparalleled. Harriman City has had leaders, churches, schools, and nonprofits try to meet the growing needs of this with food pantries, clothing drives, and more, but we haven't been able to keep up. Riverton City has had to triple its budget to cover the cost of translation services in its justice court to meet the growing needs of the non-English speaking populations. And we have had many schools that have seen over 126% increase in non-English speaking students, which has created massive challenges in trying to meet the needs of those students with existing capacity and resources. We actually spent a great deal of time on this issue over interim in our education committee that I chair, and one of the bills I'll be sponsoring actually works to address the English language learning certification gap for teachers to try and help these schools that have seen a massive uptick that's been unexpected, and it'll try to provide relief in extreme situations. Beyond education, and as we've been in our work groups with stakeholders, with leaders from city, county, state, and national levels of government, we know we have work to do in our state to better safeguard public safety and taxpayer dollars. And in several of these meetings, it became clear that Utah needs to raise the criminal penalty for a Class A misdemeanor to 365 days from 364, it's just 1 day, to help expedite the deportation of people who come here illegally or come here seeking temporary asylum and then commit crimes in our state. ICE has made it very clear in our discussions with them that they cannot deport someone who's just served 364 days, but they will for 365. And so this bill will do just that, while also making sure that after an individual has served their time and been incarcerated who came here illegally, that they'll be deported rather than being released back into the community. Again, we're really focusing on crime. And in addition, I'll be building on the excellent work that Representative Birkeland has done in running legislation to increase the penalties for human trafficking, which we've seen an uptick in as well. It's critical that we're cracking down on crime and working hand in hand with President Trump's administration to expedite the process of exporting criminals who have entered our country either illegally or manipulated and abused our country's immigration system, come to America, and then done harm to the public. And I'm excited about this package of bills and appreciate the great work that's been done by the individuals up here. And with that, I'll hand it over to Senator Baley.
Thank you, Representative Peruchi. Utah is known for being a welcoming and state full of safe, vibrant communities where families can thrive. Unfortunately, we're seeing an increasing number of cases of people unlawfully occupying homes that are vacant, which leaves property owners feeling frustrated and communities vulnerable. This problem is particularly common with second homes or vacation properties where owners come back after being away for just a little while, only to find out that someone has broken in, started living there without permission, and in many cases caused significant damage. In some cases, scammers will even rent these homes to unsuspecting tenants, creating even more problems for property owners. In my district alone, I've had multiple constituents reach out to me in 2 different cities, underscoring the need for stronger protections. Every Utahn deserves the peace of mind of knowing that when they're away, whether for work, travel, or personal reasons, their home is safe and secure. No one should return to find their property occupied by someone who has no legal right to be there. Currently, sheriffs can evict squatters, but there's little preventing those squatters from simply coming right back and causing the same issues all over again. Property owners need better, more lasting protection that can break the cycle, enhance security, and restore law and order. That's why I'm sponsoring legislation that will allow law enforcement to intervene earlier and more efficiently remove squatters. This bill also increases penalties for squatters who cause property damage or fraudulently sell or lease out a property that they do not own. These measures will help prevent squatters from establishing themselves and allow property owners to regain control of their homes faster. By taking this step, we can protect Utahns' homes, keep our neighborhoods safe, and ensure Utah remains the best place to live. And I will let Representative Willcox take it from here.
Thank you, Senator Baley. This interim in Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice, our Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Committee, we've had an organized crime subcommittee taking a deep look at the criminal gangs, drug cartels, and retail theft rings that the Department of Public Safety believe pose a significant threat to Utah's public safety. As Representative Peruchi mentioned, gang violence has been a growing problem in certain parts of the state. These gangs especially prey on youth and unsuspecting victims, pressuring and coercing juveniles to commit crimes on behalf of the adults who know that they have a stiffer penalty. This bill strengthens law enforcement's tools for dismantling gangs and increases the penalties for gang crimes for recruiting youth to join them and commit the crimes. We've also seen a dramatic increase in unlicensed drivers throughout the state who don't follow the rules of the road and do not have insurance. I had a heartbreaking conversation about a death in my own county recently with my county sheriff. In fact, almost half of the car accidents in West Valley that West Valley PD has responded to this last year involved at least one unlicensed driver. These unlicensed drivers put other drivers and pedestrians at risk and drive up insurance premiums for all Utahns. Representative McPherson has been working on legislation to increase those penalties for unlicensed driving, helping to keep Utahns safer on our roads. I'll hand it over to Representative Gwynn to talk about the fentanyl issue.
Thank you, Representative Willcox. Most of you, if not all of you, have probably been impacted, or you know someone who's been impacted by the opioid epidemic. That was rough. Sorry about that. That's why I'm proud to be working on a fentanyl bill this year to attack and address overdose deaths in the state of Utah. They are continuously on the rise. The primary reason for the spread of this rise in overdoses is the spread of fentanyl, a synthetic opioid. It's now the #1 cause of drug overdose deaths in the state of Utah. According to the DEA, as much as 70% of the fentanyl pills on Utah streets contain a potentially lethal dose. Anecdotally, in the law enforcement world, we briefly talk about having to really only train dogs on fentanyl, because if we were to train the dogs just on fentanyl alone, they would still find heroin, marijuana, methamphetamine. Fentanyl is touching everything when it comes to illicit drug use in the state of Utah. In 2023, Utah law enforcement officials seized 2 million fentanyl pills across the state. Obviously, the challenge of fentanyl goes way beyond immigration, but there's no doubt that these drugs are coming across our porous southern border and are being peddled by transnational drug cartels and gangs who are profiting off of the addictions of Utahns. Fentanyl trafficking is leading directly to hundreds of deaths in the state of Utah every year. My bill will enhance the criminal penalties for trafficking fentanyl and will include a presumptive prison sentence. I've been working with the Department of Public Safety also on a proposal to increase the number of statewide drug interdiction units to help us be able to better attack the trafficking in the state of Utah, as well as other dangerous drugs that come across with the fentanyl. And with that, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Anderson.
Well, thank you, Representative Gwynn, and thank you to all the legislators, those who are here to support public safety issues. We are so thankful for that and recognize your leadership in addressing these very critical issues. We recently addressed these same concerns regarding public safety and illegal immigration and fentanyl with Governor Cox, and also seeking help from our federal partners. The Department of Public Safety has increased its efforts significantly to target drug trafficking and distribution in our state. Our State Bureau of Investigation's Narcotics Unit revealed that 42 drug dealers in a very short time frame downtown Salt Lake City were arrested, 24 of whom were in the country illegally. Every one of these individuals were found to be in possession of significant quantities of fentanyl pills, ranging anywhere from 50 to several thousand at a time. Utah law enforcement frequently encounters drug dealers from Mexico and Honduras who have been deported multiple times. These individuals reportedly pay, on average, $15,000 to be smuggled across the border and re-enter the United States illegally. So to say that illegal immigration isn't an issue here in Utah is simply false. Also in the spring of 2024, Utah law enforcement identified Tren de Aragua, or otherwise TDA, a Venezuelan-based transnational criminal organization operating in Utah. The gang smuggles its members across the southwest border also into Utah. Tren de Aragua is involved in a wide range of criminal activities, very violent in nature, posing a significant threat to our public safety. As we continue to work with our federal partners, we look forward to the state legislation coming forward this year to be able to attack and be able to address these particular issues. Our focus at DPS is on keeping Utah safe, and our efforts will be on those committing crimes in our state that threaten public safety. And with that, I'll turn it back to Representative Lisenby. Thank you.
Before we wrap up, let me just re-emphasize a few points. We completely understand people's desire to come to the United States, and especially to Utah. This is the greatest country on earth and a place of opportunity. Utah is and will remain supportive of legal immigration. As a state founded by people fleeing religious persecution, Utah is especially welcoming to true refugees who have gone through the legal process. But we cannot and will not turn a blind eye to the impacts that the recent surge of illegal immigration is having on our state, businesses, and citizens. The bills will be numbered and made public over the next week or two. But we know many Utahns are deeply concerned about these issues and wanted to provide assurances that we are working to address them in the upcoming session. There are also members of the public in attendance today who would love to share their stories with the press or with others. If you have any questions, please reach out to Alexa, our House Comm staff, who can put you in touch with the individual legislators running specific bills. Thank you very much for your attendance.